Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Sabaniak from Life Like You Mean It, and I'm here today to talk to you about letting go and moving forward from past experiences. Before I start, I need to apologize in advance. I am down and out with the flu this weekend, so my brain might not be functioning at total capacity. So if I end up having a little brain fart moment or something, please bear with me on that. Um, what I wanted to do is start out with telling you my story for those of you that don't know what my story is, what my background. So I suffered through child abuse from the age of 2 until 12, and that took on many forms, both physical, psychological, and sexual abuse at the hands of my then stepfather. Um, the most difficult thing to get over was actually the psychological abuse. For every single day, pretty much, this man told me that I was ugly and useless and worthless and stupid, and nobody was ever going to love me, and I was never going to make anything of myself. And I carried that with me, as you can well imagine, being told from 2 years old all the way to 12 years old, in those real formative years, that I was basically just a piece of garbage. It was really hard moving into my teen years to believe anything was different from that. Uh, so we left that man when I was 12, and my mom got me into some therapy to try to help. But of course, I was a teenage girl, so I was already going to be struggling with emotional issues and hormonal issues and whatnot. So I had about a decade's worth of time where I basically let his thoughts play as my mantra in my head. So anytime anything went well in my life, I would wait for the other shoe to drop because I thought, well, I'm stupid and I'm ugly and I'm useless and I'm worthless and nobody's ever going to love me. So this can't possibly go right. And then obviously when things would not go my way, say, well, obviously they're not going to go my way. I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I'm worthless, I'm useless. So you can see the kind of trend that was going on there in my life. And I basically was living as a victim. Anytime anything would happen to me, I looked at it just like that. It was happening to me. People were going out of their way to make sure that I knew that I was not good enough, or to make sure that I knew that I was worthless and stupid and useless and all the rest of it. Um, so somewhere around when I was about 19 or 20, things finally started to shift for me, thank goodness. So that took on the form of me going from being very negative and me expecting to not succeed because I ultimately didn't think I deserved to succeed, to me changing my whole way of looking at life, me looking at myself, the way that I learned to love myself and respect myself and prove him wrong is basically what I ended up doing. It wasn't overnight. It took about another decade of time for me to be able to actually do everything to become this whole person that I am now. Um, and about 6 or 7 months ago now, I'd say, Life Like You Mean It was born. I was sitting down brainstorming with my partner for what I could do to make a difference on the world. And I ended up realizing I've got all of this knowledge and I've not just had the experience of the child abuse, but I have the experience of the recovery from the abuse. And that made me say, you know what, maybe I can actually turn this into something good. Maybe I can actually make something positive out of all of the negative that the child abuse had brought in itself, both in that moment and then, of course, for the decade afterwards. And still to this day, in my 40s, I still am dealing with some of the issues from those experiences. So Life Like You Mean It was born as a means for me to be able to put my story out there, kind of giving me that kind of final step of closure, and then also hopefully helping other people. And in my travel of helping other people, it's come to my attention that everybody is dealing with something. I mean, not everybody is dealing with child abuse, thank goodness, but everybody's got something that they're trying to get over. And so, what the first thing that I'd like to say about that is please don't compare whatever it is that you're getting over with what I'm getting over. You might be getting over something even more horrendous than what I did. And you might be thinking that what I was getting over is much more horrendous than what you did. And that's irrelevant, because we all have our issues, and if they're holding us back, it doesn't matter how little or how big they are in the grand scheme of things. If they're holding us back, then we're not able to have the life that we deserve, and we do deserve much better than that. So I mentioned that I was living as a victim, and I want to put that forth to you for what does it look like to you to be held back by whatever it is that you are struggling with letting go right now. Are you also playing the victim? Are you also looking at things like people are doing things to you? You've got kind of a victim mentality there. Whenever anything happens, it's a poor me kind of scenario. Are you reliving the event over and over again, just not having any closure for that event? Are you playing your own mantra in your head? So my mantra was very simple. It was his words, but maybe your mantra is your own words. Maybe you've put something into your own mind based on whatever that event is that you're having trouble getting over. Maybe it's your whole belief system. Maybe you really don't believe that you deserve happiness. And oftentimes when we are struggling with letting something go, that really is at the core of it. We're so upset by something that we've done, or so upset about something that has happened to us, that we at the core believe that we don't deserve to move forward from that. And so we will physically keep ourselves in that place as long as we need to so that we can continue to feel bad about that. And that sounds really strange, especially coming from myself dealing with something like child abuse. I didn't do anything in that case. Obviously, no child is ever to blame for being treated like that. But misery does love company, right? You hear that expression all the time, and it is unfortunately very true. We get very kind of stuck in a pattern where it feels good to be there. It's our comfort zone. So for me, my comfort zone was that I was stupid, ugly, useless, worthless, and was never going to be anything, because that meant that I didn't have to really go 100%, try to succeed at something, and then end up failing at it. It meant that there was always an excuse for why I was never going to be up here, and I was always going to be down here, because I was putting myself there. So usually if you're stuck somewhere like this, you're not very happy with where you're at. So if you can relate to any of these things, reliving something over and over again, not letting yourself move forward from it, being stuck, literally being disappointed with where you're at in life, that you can't move forward, then I'm assuming that you are indeed yourself not letting go of a particular trauma or particular past experience in your life. So the first thing that I did, and I did this through the help of different books and different people, whatnot. It wasn't just some, wow, look at what I can do. It took a lot of different things that I tried until finally I ended up finding some things that worked for me. So I'm going to share some of those things with you. And the first most important thing is for you to take a look at the facts. Whatever it is that you're trying to get over, maybe it's something you've done or maybe it's something that happened to you, you need to look at the facts and appreciate all of them, every single one. Okay. What did you actually have control over for that particular past experience? For me, I had none. I had no control over being abused. I had no control over being beaten up, being, told I was stupid or ugly or worthless or useless, any of those. I had no control, certainly, over being sexually abused. For those 10 years, I had no control. So I want you to look at what you actually had control over. And to give you an example for this, some of the other traumas that I've dealt with is relationship issues, right? Most of us have been in a relationship that we've lost. And you look back on it and you wonder if you maybe gave 100%. So for me, I would say, when I look back on any of those past relationships, my control, what I did have control over, was whether or not I gave 100% to the relationship. And I can say wholeheartedly that there were some of those relationships I did not. And I lost them. And that may have been, something that I have difficulty moving forward from. And so I have a choice on what I'm going to do with that information. Am I going to beat myself up about it mentally that I, let that relationship go? Or am I going to say, I'm going to live and learn that relationship wasn't meant to be. I learned a lot of things about myself in it. And the main thing that I learned is that I need to give 100% if I expect 100% back. And so my next relationships going forward, that is what I'm going to do to have the relationship that I deserve to have. So just another example that goes above or beyond the child abuse example that some of you might find a little bit more relatable. Okay. Second thing I want you to look at is, what are you getting from holding yourself back? What are you getting from staying in this moment, not letting yourself move forward? And this goes back to the whole safety, comfort zone, the whole misery loves company that I suggested earlier. Most of us do the things that we do so that we are accepted, so that we can feel love, things like that. But we also do things so that we can be comfortable, we can be safe, we don't have to go outside of our comfort zone, for example. So I'm going to put the question towards you that perhaps maybe, is it possible that you are not letting yourself go because in the end it actually feels comfortable to stay where you're at? And I know that's a really difficult question to ask, but if you really do think about it and give yourself time, you don't have to answer me now. Of course, if you want to give any questions or comments, I am open to answering those. But whatever experience it is that you're trying to look past, you're trying to get over, again, I'll ask that question. Is it possible that you're holding yourself back? You are keeping yourself there because it feels comfortable. It's what you know. If I look at my mantra, where I told myself I was stupid and ugly and worthless and useless and I was never going to be anything, nobody was ever going to love me. As terrible as that sounds, especially now that I have the self-esteem to say that's ridiculous, but I can see exactly where I was coming from that. I mean, first of all, they were his words. They were words I heard every day for 10 years. They were words that I believed wholly and truly for another full decade after that. So for the first 20 years of my life, essentially, that was my reality. And as things started to move forward in my life, where I started to have successes and I started to have people like me and boyfriends and things like that, and I started proving him wrong, on one hand, it was very exciting to think, wait a second, he's wrong. I'm actually worth something. People actually like me. I actually have some intelligence. I'm not stupid. That is very exciting. It's also very scary because now I had to hold myself accountable for that. I couldn't just brush off and say, well, of course I'm naturally going to fail at this, because it now started to shift to, well, naturally I can succeed at this because, and that is really scary. My comfort zone was removed from me. So take a really hard look at that and really ask yourself if maybe you're actually getting something out of staying where you are in this. And again, no judgment for this, right? We all do it. Even though I'm sitting here telling you about this is one way to get over something, it's because I had to learn it myself, and I still go through numerous times in my life where I have to remind myself to do this. Take a look at how much control I really had, look at the facts of it, and then ask myself the hard question of, why am I not letting myself go? 10 years after the experience, I was the one holding myself still in that experience. I was the one still reliving it. I was the one still telling myself those things. He was long gone. He was gone for those 10 years. Right? And still now, I do find, being in my 40s, so now another 30 years passed, there's still times I have to remind myself. So whatever it is that you are going through, take the time to really have a really hard look at what it is that you're getting from it. Because as crazy as that sounds, you are actually getting something from it, good or bad. Okay. And the next thing that is really important, once you've been able to actually see what you're getting from it and realize that a large portion of it you had no control over. Maybe there are some things that you do have control over, like my example of the relationship issue. What are you going to do from this point forward? Is there some other way that you can look at it? For example, I choose to look at my life now and say that everybody that comes into my life is there to teach me something so that I can learn and grow from it. And so did that man. That man taught me how to love myself. He taught me self-respect. Ultimately, he created the person that I am now because of what he did. Do I wish that he did it differently? Yes. Was it hard work for him? No. It was a lot of hard work for me, but it was there because of that experience. If I hadn't had that experience, I don't know if I would be the strong, independent woman that I am today. So I'm ultimately grateful for that experience. And now what I'm going to do with that is for me, taking it to the next level, putting my story out there and helping as many people as I can from it. I'm going to make something good out of this if it's the last thing that I do. Like I was saying before with the relationship, if it's something along those lines that you're struggling to get over, is there something that you've learned from that? Like my example, not giving 100% into your relationship, that now you could take forward and you can do differently with the next relationship. I have a little saying where I say, that's a me problem or that's a you problem. And in this case, that's a you problem or a them problem, right? That man who abused me, that was a them problem. That was not my problem. That had nothing to do with me. If you picked me up and took me out of that scenario and you put in another little girl, or I don't even know, a little boy, he would have done the same thing to that child. He was not looking to do it to me. He was going to do it whoever was in front of him, come hell or high water. And that was the biggest thing that I needed to learn to get over the event, was that it wasn't about me. In fact, that was the last thing it was about. So can you do the same sort of thing with what you are struggling with to let go? And can you try to look at it differently? Can you try to see the lack of control that you had in that particular event? Can you see that you can turn it into something else, something positive for yourself? Can you see that it wasn't necessarily about you, that it maybe was a them problem, that you were the one that was sitting there in that particular moment, and so it ended up being taken out on you. You survived it. Whatever it is that you are dealing with, you have survived it. You're still here. Right? You might be struggling with it, but you're here, you're on this call, you're listening to what I have to say. It must mean that you're looking out for other people to offer you help as well. So the fact that you have survived it, now we just need you to get to survive it well. So I survived my abuse, yes, but now changing the way that I look at things, I survived it well now, which is much, much different for me. You are stronger now than you were then. Every day that you are here, that you are surviving this, you are stronger. And so you need to give yourself props for that. You need to recognize it. You need to appreciate it. And you need to realize that you also are the one that is in control of your decision to either hold on to this or to let it go. It is ultimately your choice. And I know that that makes it sound very frivolous. It's not. Okay. It is a very long road to decide that you're going to let go of it. I don't mean to make it sound trivial at all. I, of all people, understand that once you make the decision that you are going to let it go, that is the first step. Okay? First step in many steps. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope that you got something out of that. You are always welcome to contact me at lifelikeyoumeanit.com/contact. You can always pop me a message on my Facebook page, Life Like You Mean It. I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you. And one of the things that I offer is actually a free complimentary call so that we can see if there's a nice fit and I can learn a little bit more about you and see if there's a way that I can help you with that. So I have put the link on here for you to book that if you would like, and I hope that this offered you some sort of hope. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.